Very pleased today to be able to join this panel and be a part of this forum to discuss these issues. They are important issues for the African American community and for the nation. And I want to focus my comments on two areas that have been discussed to some extent: employment and wealth in the black community. And I'll take a somewhat different, maybe a more modest approach than some of my colleagues on the panel have taken in terms of what I would propose as policy. Not to say that I disagree necessarily with the thrust of the policies that are being proposed, but that I think that there may be some questions that are yet unanswered that the policy proposals may prejudge. So I had expected that by the time I came up that this would be the fifth time you'd seen this chart, but my predecessors on the panel have not chosen to show it, so I'm glad I included it. It's just a recapitulation, if you will, a summary of what we've seen in the economic cycle over the last few decades. But you can see the peak in the unemployment rate most recently with the Great Recession that extended from December 2007 to June 2009, with, I think, for most of us understanding that even though the National Bureau of Economic Research, which officially classifies recessions beginning and ends, we know that through now, even the anemic economic reports show that we've got a long way to go in terms of recovering from this Great Recession. It's in that context, I think, that it's really not unusual to talk about large-scale job creation programs and the kinds of policies that were being recommended by Sandy Darity and also by Hader Kerben and his colleagues. And there have been, aside from the Great Recession, the Great Depression and the WPA and programs there have been several attempts to put large-scale job creation programs in place. And they've met with a variety of results. Some have been quite mixed. One of the things that I want to pay some attention to is the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, which had as a little noticed subsidized jobs program. Most of the ARA, as it's been called, was focused on grant and loan programs, contracts, some safety net programs, and also several tax benefit programs that were put in place by the Obama administration to a tune of about $703 billion. Because of the political restrictions in terms of what could be done and what could be gotten through Congress, all those funds needed to be spent by October 30th of 2011, which meant that, again, those funds were phasing out in many communities while the recession was still underway. Several estimates indicate that our probably saved about 3 million jobs, saved or created about 3 million jobs. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that it had an impact on raising gross domestic product by some amount, lowering unemployment rates by relatively small amounts, but overall having a significant impact on the economy, as Congressman Scott mentioned earlier. And there are some estimates that that ARA had a significant anti-poverty effect because of the nature of the targeting of the spending in many of the programs that it supported. There was in ARA a little noticed, as I said before, subsidized jobs program that allowed states through block grants to create an emergency fund to support either existing or new programs for subsidized jobs. TANF, as you may recognize, is the Target Assistance to Needy Families program, and it is focused on low-income families. And so those jobs were for adults and youth eligible for TANF programs in 39 states. And the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities estimates that it probably supported about 260,000 people over the 2 years that the program existed at a cost of about $1.3 billion. I think one of the things that's been learned is that both in this program and others, is that you can create large-scale job creation programs. You can create counter-cyclical job programs. The benefits from those programs extend not just to the individuals involved, but also to the communities and their families, and that those programs can be implemented at a reasonable cost. But you also have to pay attention to the structure of those programs in terms of defining the eligible population, how the benefits are to be provided, the infrastructure through which those programs are to operate, and the funding, and finally evaluating the programs and their impacts. And I'll just say here that where I'm going with this is that while it may be necessary or desirable to have a large-scale job creation program, I think we probably need more definition to the kinds of concerns that I mentioned there in defining those programs. I applaud Professor Kerbin and his colleagues for the specificity that they've put into talking about their proposal, and I would commend that sort of approach to my colleague Professor Darity as well, because I think that there are some real issues that would need to be addressed to make that kind of a program a real one. I wanted to just briefly talk about the impact of the recession on wealth. It's been mentioned earlier. African American wealth decreased by about 53% from 2005 to 2009. The wealth of white households decreased by about 19%, and that of Hispanics decreased by about 66% between 2005 and 2009. And for African American families, the fact that they experienced that decrease indicated that the wealth ratio had declined to its lowest level since data have been collected in the 25 years that data have been systematically collected on wealth holdings. So significant impact on the African American community. The question of what to do about it, again, I think is something that is deserving of significant attention. I think that the question about or the policy of a child account or the baby bonds is certainly one approach, and there have been a number of state programs put into effect to do something like that, not nearly as generous as the one that's being discussed. But again, here I would suggest a modest proposal, and that is that we consider the possibility of some demonstration programs to look at the effects of the likely effects of adopting a program in let's say the baby bonds area and bringing it to scale at a national level. I hearken back to the days of the Office of Economic Opportunity, in part because I guess I was associated with some of those research efforts. But the federal government used to have a very robust activity involved with demonstration programs. And the Office of Economic Opportunity was a real greenhouse, if you will, for incubating ideas and looking at programs that were designed to redress particularly the income inequality that existed in this nation by doing a demonstration and experimental programs for community health centers that still exist today, Head Start, Job Corps, experimenting with large-scale programs like a negative income tax, a guaranteed income, and so on. And so I would suggest that sort of approach might be important particularly for the baby bonds question, because there are issues, as was mentioned, there are issues about fertility effects that such a program might have. There are also issues about family structure, about labor force participation, about own education and other things that could be studied as opposed to theorized about. And one of the things that we learned from a series of experiments looking at guaranteed incomes was that a lot of the things that economists thought they knew about how people would behave turned out not to be true when confronted with the real world. So I would commend that to potential experimentation at the federal level with the hope that we could find a way to deal with these very significant racial disparities that continue to exist. Thank you very much.